You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Into the World Series Game 1 last night. We were recording ahead of Game 2, episode number 31 of Minor League Baseball's The Show Before the Show podcast. So though you are all focused on the big leagues, we have stuff coming at you from the prospect world, and we're tying it in with the World Series. Before we get to that, I welcome in my good pal, Sam Dykstra. Hello, Sam.
Hello. This podcast episode is brought to you by coffee. Coffee. When baseball games go until 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast.
Dude, so, so he's Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Mon. I'm the one in Denver, he's the one in New York. So last night, I'm working a shift. I'm finishing off a story for our Milby Awards, which we're going to talk about here momentarily in our first strike of our 3-strike segment. And, I'm finishing it up. Game's getting late. It's getting a little bit drawn out. I look at the clock, and I'm like, well, it's only like 10:15, whatever it is. But I never think about myself in terms of where I am in like the spectrum of time zones when it comes to sports, because the Mountain Time Zone's in a very good, we're like right in the sweet spot. Like things don't start too late or start too early. Everything's pretty much good. I saw somebody tweet yesterday, like people on the East Coast are like, oh man, I've been waiting all day for the World Series. I can't wait. And people on the West Coast are like, oh man, I just finished lunch. I might as well watch the World Series now. Which is kind of how it felt. But I didn't even think about the fact that like that game went so late for East Coasters. That was like 1:30 when it was done.
Yeah, I got a little too comfy on my couch. I may have slept between innings 12 and 13, but I did see 14.
It's the right time to sleep.
I did see the Alex Gordon home run, so I think I was the key, I think is what I'm getting at here.
That thing was absurd.
Through all the non-important stuff.
That was absolutely, that home run. Come on, Gordo.
Yeah, they're going to be talking about that in Kansas City for a while. Just how good Familia has been.
Yes.
Postseason, regular season, yada, yada. You talk to anybody who's ever faced him, he's got some of the most wicked stuff in the majors, and then just popped it off like that to deep center. That was crazy.
It was one of the more entertaining playoff games we've had in a very long time, and it was Game 1 of the World Series. I hope we get 6 more games that are even half that good.
Yeah, that would be nice.
One heck of a fun series. So welcome into the 31st edition of the show, and this is what you call synergy in the world of media or something like that. New York Mets number 2 prospect Brandon Nimmo will join the show here in just a little bit. Got a chance to catch up with Brandon, who is basically the number 1 prospect in the organization because the one guy ahead of him is Steven Matz, who's up at the major league level right now and in the World Series, and we'll talk a little bit of World Series here momentarily. But we're going to get started with 3 strikes from the MILB.com point of view, which is today we started rolling out our Milby stories, the best in minor league baseball for the 2015 season, and we got things underway today, rolling out a couple of stories, best starter, best reliever. We've got all kinds of stuff coming up later on in the week, but this is one of our funnest things that we get to do from season to season is write these stories and get to talk to guys about their great years. And I get a chance to talk to Blake Snell, who is honored as our vote, the writers' vote, the MILB.com vote, for starting pitcher of the year in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Our own Kelsey Hennigan got a chance to talk with Oliver Drake, the Baltimore Orioles organization, who is our reliever of the year. But Sam, some of your thoughts from our first couple of Milby categories.
Yeah, I mean, it was no surprise, at least to any of us. I mean, it was a staff vote, so this is stuff we talk about all year long anyways. But Blake Snell was such an obvious pick for starting pitcher of the year. I'm going to have you talk a little bit about it because you did get to write it. But Blake is a podcast guest, as was his manager in Durham, Sandberg. And so, go back, listen to that stuff. You can listen to them talk about it on our podcast. But reading your feature on Blake, it was exactly what we've seen at him all year. He talked a lot about the mental side, about the growth that he's kind of gone into through the Ray system. Just the dominant year he had. We've talked about the numbers all over the place. An ERA under 2, so much, loads and loads of strikeouts. I'll kind of turn it over to you. And what were your conversations with him like and the guys around him?
It's kind of funny because we had to basically do the same interview that we did on the podcast just a few weeks ago. Like, well, kind of tell me some of the thoughts you have coming out of this season. It's such a breakout year for you. But again, I mean, every time you talk to Blake Snell, and I tweeted this out today, he's one of our favorite interviews in baseball because he tells you what he's really thinking, and he gave me kind of more unique stuff this time around than even what he gave us last time, which was phenomenal stuff, because he's always evaluating. I think that's what you take away from talking to Blake Snell, is he's always figuring out what's going right, what's going wrong, and what he's able to do to correct the things that are not necessarily up to par with him. That's been the biggest difference with him over the last couple of seasons. 2013, he really struggled. He was in Class A Bowling Green, and Jared Sandberg, oddly enough, was his manager there, and was his manager again this year with AAA Durham. And I think that's what Blake and what Jared both said, was he really started to notice he couldn't just go out on talent and beat guys. It wasn't enough for him to just go out, be the guy that he was in high school, and compete against professional hitters. So he really started to realize over the offseason he's got to eat better, he's got to work out better, he's got to take better care of his body. In season, if he needs to make a mechanical adjustment, that's something he has to be open to doing. And nobody has ever articulated the way that they see results better than Blake Snell to me. Most guys will say, I did this and it resulted in this and whatever. But with Blake Snell, it's like he's in awe of the way that his body and his mechanics and his work respond when he does the little things that it takes to be successful. And that's what I thought was really, really cool about getting another chance to talk to him. And he said that his biggest adjustment was something mental. And this was his quote. He said, quote, "I really thought about, from a hitter's view, the best hitter on my team gets out all the time. It makes no sense why I never really thought about that. As a hitter, you're going to get out more than get on. They have to have a perfect swing, pretty much, is how I feel, to really hit the ball good. And even on their perfect swings, they're going to mess up. Maybe the ball will go off the end of the bat or off the inside of the bat. There's so much that can happen that I just thought, who cares? Just throw it. If they hit it, they hit it." And he said for the first couple seasons of his pro career, he was so concerned with not letting guys touch the ball. That's why he nibbled around the strike zone, didn't want to give guys anything to hit. The walk rate was too high. Wasn't striking out the amount of guys that he really wanted to strike out. And then it all clicked. In 2014, he just figured, man, I got a defense behind me. More often than not, these guys are going to get out anyway. I'm just going to let him hit the ball. And that's where he really took off. And Jared Sandberg kind of said the same thing, but just one of the really, really fascinating guys to get to talk to about the inner workings of what it takes to be a successful pitcher at the professional level. And another Northwestern guy from Matt Boyd from the Detroit Tigers organization, formerly a Toronto Blue Jays prospect. He won the fan vote, an Oregon State product, and an Oregon native, I believe, as well. Matt Boyd tweeted that out, tweeted it at Blake Snell. Actually, I take that back. He's a Washington native. He's from Bellevue, Washington, which is not too far away from where Blake Snell is from in Seattle. Bellevue is just a suburb, and Matt Boyd went on to Oregon State, and Blake Snell joined the Rays out of high school. And we've talked, Reese McGuire, we talked to last week, is another Northwest guy. We've talked with so many of those guys lately, it feels like.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see those two guys kind of bond over that as well. And Matt Boyd, another really fitting choice, dominated Double-A while with the Blue Jays, moved up to Triple-A, and eventually was traded over to the Tigers, finished the year in the big leagues. But really cool to get a chance to talk to Blake Snell again and get kind of another look at a post-mortem on his season.
Yeah, I really like that point you made about just kind of his control and his command and the idea of just throwing it in the zone, because that was the knock on him a couple of years ago, was that he just had control problems. He walked, as you noted in the story, 6.6 batters per 9 innings. I mean, that's not exactly exciting for anybody to see at any level, especially when they're trying to grow like that. That's something they can iron out over time, and Snell has shown what that's like, and that's kind of a sign of where the game is going too, in terms of BABIP and trying to understand balls in play and how pitchers can affect that kind of thing and hitters can't. That whole thing, that just the quotes he provided in your story and the ones you used just show the maturity level of this guy too. And we'll be excited to see him next year, probably starting at AAA, but knowing just how kind of confident the guy is. I mean, he said on the pod, we talked about this before, he wants to be an all-star next year, not a AAA all-star, not an International League all-star. He wants to be a Major League all-star next year. So we'll see him carry that to the spring and see if the Rays can find a spot for him. If not earlier in the year, if not on opening day, maybe halfway through or something like that. Kind of moving over to the reliever. As you mentioned, Kelsey Hennigan wrote this up for us. Oliver Drake was the staff pick for minor league reliever of the year. Drake was a 43rd round pick of the Orioles back in 2008. Actually re-signed with the team, re-signed a minor league contract this year. They knew coming into the year that he was going to be the closer at Norfolk. Ended up posting a 0.82 ERA in 44 innings there, struck out 66 batters in that time, walked only 66, so he had a 0.89 whip. I mean, these are just dominant numbers across the board. Got a couple call-ups, to the big leagues for the first time. Kelsey had a cool end to the story in that Drake is a Central Mass native. He grew up around the Worcester area, went to a private school around there too, and got to pitch this year in Fenway. So she talked about what that journey was like, going from a guy who was a very, very low pick. He came out of the Naval Academy, grew up a lot in that experience, as many young people do, and then became a 43rd round pick that doesn't even exist anymore. Went through some surgery back in, I think, 2012, and then had to become a reliever, and now is just a very dominant one in the Orioles system. The Orioles didn't make it easy on us. They named both him and Michael Givens their co-pitchers of the year, named after Jim Palmer, that award. There was a little bit of split amongst the staff, but Oliver Drake ended up taking that. And if you get a chance, check out Kelsey's story. He talks a lot about his journey and how, you go from a guy who's a very, very low pick. Those guys get discarded very, very easily, so they have to show something. And then he went through surgery, and there were just so many obstacles for this guy coming in. And now he's, a bona fide major leaguer and a minor league award winner. So we'll see what happens to him going forward. Jake Smith took the fan vote in San Jose. He struck out a career high 118 and 84 in the third inning, so was kind of a long man out of the San Jose bullpen over there in the Cal League. Had a 2.35 ERA in a very, very tough league to pitch in. So the fans were very excited to see him, and that's what we have up so far on the site. Like Tyler said, we'll have more of these features coming up with our staff picks, and then you can find out who won the fan votes. I think we dipped well into the six figures in terms of votes this year, so it was exciting to see those pile in, and now you'll all get to see what the results were.
The Orioles, I mean, like you said, Oliver Drake has a very cool story in his own right. Michael Givens, who doesn't win either of these awards, but won the co-pitcher of the year for the Orioles in their system. Another really cool story. He's a converted infielder. So it's neat to see the Orioles discovering these, sort of diamonds in the rough, and such a cool story for Oliver Drake to keep at it through 7+ years in the minor leagues before you finally get your first major league call-up. So many guys get to that point where they think, either it's not going to happen for me or it's not going to happen for a long time and this isn't worth it anymore. And to see somebody stick with it through that long, from the 43rd round out of a service academy in 2008 to make your debut this year, is a pretty remarkable thing. So congratulations to Oliver Drake, and congratulations as well to Jake Smith and to Matt Boyd and to Blake Snell. And we had a whole lot of fun writing those, and we got all kinds of Milby stories coming up later on in the week. Strike 2 this week. It's World Series time. We had a crazy Game 1 last night. We're recording, obviously, on Wednesday. Game 2 coming up here in just a few hours. But we're going to dive into sort of the minor league aspect of the Major League World Series. And a headline that just kind of fell into everyone's lap. Raul Mondesi Jr. is possibly one Ned Yost move away from making his Major League debut in the World Series, which would be the first time that has ever happened. What? Like, what? Sam kind of explained to us how this came about. Mondesi was added to the World Series roster, and there is a chance that he will make his debut. I don't think it's a very high chance. I think if we were going to see it, it would have been in a game like last night, but you never know. Just take us through this crazy Raul Mondesi story. Yeah,
so it just kind of came about that the Royals were working him out. Circumstances are a little different in the World Series. You're going to they're going to be playing in Citi Field in games 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be slightly different in that, there might be more double switches. Like you said, one Ned Yost move away. And as much as we like to think we've seen him through the playoffs these last 2 years, there's always a move that he'll make that kind of makes you scratch your head. So, he wanted to carry the extra infielder. They had Terrence Gore, who was the pinch runner extraordinaire, only came in to pinch run. And they decided, are we going to carry the extra outfielder or the extra infielder? And they decided, Mondesi, he's a plus defender. If they're going to use him just for middle infield depth, he's a very, very good shortstop. Everything you read about him is that he's very fast. He didn't quite show that like monster, if we're talking about Billy Hamilton speed, he doesn't quite have that, but MLB.com has given him a 70 for his run tool. He swiped 19 bases in 25 attempts this year at AA Northwest Arkansas. Really should not hit much in this World Series. He's a very young guy. They've pushed him up aggressively at every level. He only hit 243 with a 279 on base percentage, 372 slugging percentage. So, he's not exactly a prolific hitter yet, but that was at Double-A as a 20-year-old. So, those results aren't exactly expected. Now he's in the majors on the biggest stage of the majors. So not much is expected of him in terms of hitting. If anything, he'll just be, a late game defensive replacement if they need it at shortstop with Alcides Escobar, or maybe at second base if Ben Zobrist needs a blow and they don't want to go to Christian Colon, something like that. They would just rather have his legs, I think, more than anything. But you're right. I mean, this really came out of left field. And we'll see if Ned actually ends up using him. If he ends up getting, a pinch run attempt here or there and becomes the first rookie to make his major league debut in the World Series. If nothing else, that'll be a story that Raul Mondesi will be able to carry for the rest of his days.
Like you said, we've seen the Royals make some crazy moves in the past, whether it's, on field, things like Game 1's bunt attempt, with a lot of people scratching their heads in trying to get a lead late in that game with Lorenzo Cain at the plate. Now, it turns out today that wasn't actually a Ned Yost move. Apparently, Lorenzo Cain put that bunt on himself. But the point being, the Royals kind of make you sometimes leave you wondering what is going to happen next. So there's a chance that we could actually see this come about. And for Raul Mondesi, that's a guy who's been through some knocks at the levels that he's seen already in his career. I mean, the Royals have tested him at high levels through every step of his career, basically, to this point. He's always a young guy or the youngest guy in his league or in his level, in his classification going into a season. He was only 20 years old this entire year, started the season at 1920, spent the entire year in Double-A, 81 games with Northwest Arkansas. There's a whole lot of promise and talent there. And in the certain circumstances where he can be used, the Royals have a very dynamic guy. I mean, we've seen them do that in the past, use guys in big spots that have speed, that can change a game. And if you're a Royal, how exciting is that to just have these guys, these phenom talents you can just bring up, give that call. And it hasn't been this circumstance before, have a guy make his major league debut in the World Series. But the fact that you even have that option is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the tools in the shed, you might as well use them. So, he was postseason eligible. He was technically in the Royals organization on August 31st. They had to clear a 40-man spot for him. They had to DFA Jabba Chamberlain, which is, a little disappointing. He's a native of the area. But he wasn't going to pitch in the World Series, obviously, so they made that move to clear the spot. And, he's got the wheels. He's got the glove. If they need him, they have him, and might as well use him if he's in the organization.
So, with that, we segue very well into strike 3 for this week, which is predicated on guys like Raul Mondesi. 4 teams left standing, the final 4 teams in Major League Baseball's 2015 postseason picture. The 2 eliminated clubs, the Chicago Cubs and the Toronto Blue Jays, and the 2 teams that have advanced to the World Series, the Kansas City Royals and the New York Mets. This is sort of a topic that we were going to cover last week, but we will get a chance to dive into it a little bit more now. If you had to pick one of those teams, the top system going forward, the brightest future going forward of those 4 clubs, Sam, if you wanted to pick a team to be a fan of for the next 5 years, let's say, who gets your vote out of those 4?
Yeah, well, I think it really comes down to the 2 National League teams in terms of system, in terms of Major League talent right now. The Royals are obviously in their second straight World Series. It's a great time to be a Royals fan, especially if your name is Paul Rudd. But
he's like one of the coolest celebrity guys you could have, celebrity fans you could have.
Yeah, this must be like the 2 years of Paul Rudd. He had Ant-Man come out, which was a huge smash. Now he's an action star. Now he's just generally Paul Rudd in general.
Paul Rudd can do nothing wrong. Paul Rudd is like the Theo Epstein of Hollywood.
I like that. We'll take
it's
that.
Fitting. It's fitting for this topic, not necessarily
exactly.
the same team.
So
but okay.
We'll use that to streamline into the Cubs then. The Royals have made – I don't think they quite have the system that the Cubs do, obviously. The Cubs graduated a bunch of really young talent this year between, Schwarber and Bryant and Addison Russell, and Javier Baez didn't necessarily graduate this year but is still very young, and Castro's still under contract for a very long time, and C.J. Edwards got to blow, up there just to get a taste of what Major League action is going to be like. So I really think it starts with the Cubs and you have to even like it more because this organization has shown that they're willing to spend the money. They signed John Lester. There's going to be more pitching free agents coming up. They have Jake Arrieta there, who may never have a season quite like he did this year again, but he's going to be very, very good going forward. So a lot of excitement for the Cubs. I want to pick them. I really, 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 really like what the Mets have. I think pitching is so hard to find in this game. You saw that, the Cubs spent through the nose to get John Lester last year, and he ended up being their number 2 pitcher. So when you have, the stable of arms that the Mets have going forward, all controllable pitching too. You're talking about the 4 that are starting in this World Series between Harvey and DeGrom and Syndergaard and Steven Matz. I think Harvey's going to be the first free agent. He doesn't become a free agent until before the 2019 season. So this is all very controllable talent, and you're already seeing some of it with Conforto and the guy we're going to be talking to later here with Brandon Nimmo. That talent or the system itself is stacked. I really, really like Dominic Smith. I think he could, someday Lucas Duda is probably going to regress, and then Dominic Smith is certainly coming up. I really like the way he ended the season. I like the way he's playing in the AFL now. So I think the industry-wide idea would be to take the Cubs, kind of be the contrarian, to embrace debate. And I'm using air quotes. You can't see it, but even Tyler can't see it, but I'm saying it in that kind of voice. I'll take the Mets. What about you, Tyler?
I think you hit the nail on the head saying that the conversation sort of begins and ends with the National League clubs here. And it's not inside the parameters of this discussion, but I think you could throw the Los Angeles Dodgers in to this conversation, certainly, if we weren't just going with the top 4 finishers. But, I'm going to go with the Cubs just because the Cubs, unlike some of these other teams, didn't give up a lot to continue to be successful. And we, for so long, thought the Cubs were going to have to deal some of these top names in order to get pitching talent that would push them over the top and into the postseason. It wasn't going to be Chris Bryant. We knew that. It wasn't going to be Addison Russell because of the way he was acquired. But Jorge Soler or Kyle Schwarber or Javier Baez or some of those guys you figured were probably going to be dangled at some point to try to land a premier starter because the position player prospects for the Cubs were so ridiculously loaded compared with the pitching talent. And then the pitching talent held up its end of the deal. So I think, the Cubs are probably the team you look at because they haven't had to relinquish many of those assets. Behind them, I think the Mets are the same way. The Royals are going to continue to be exciting because of the way they play ball right now. Just their style lends them to being a very exciting team, and their minor league teams emulate that. But again, this is a team that shipped away Brandon Finnegan. Sean Manaea is gone. We haven't seen the giant steps forward that we expected for some other guys like Kyle Zimmer. Now, a little bit lower down on that list, Hunter Dozier's been very good. Bubba Starling had a breakout year this year. So the Royals are there. The Jays, of all these teams, are probably the one that you look at as being most built to win. Obviously, they didn't do it this year, so maybe 2016, maybe 2017, but Daniel Norris is gone from that team now. Jeff Hoffman is gone from that team now. Miguel Castro is gone. Max Pentecost, who's a very highly touted prospect, we haven't really seen what he can do as a professional because of injuries yet, so they probably check in as number 4, but, to take the easy company line, I guess the Cubs are probably the team that excites you the most, but I think what maybe excites you even more is that they still have all those options of if they want to go out and land somebody huge, they still have an absurd amount of talent in the minor leagues that could serve as currency to acquire something bigger going for the major league team going into 2016. So that's what excites you most if you're a Cubs fan is you're so loaded with talent right now. You're playing with such house money, and you already made the playoffs in 2015. For them, for the Astros. Yeah. So that's my pick.
To be a couple wins away from the World Series like this, and you got to think that has an effect on the free agent market too. Lester had the Theo connection. They certainly threw enough money at him to make that work. But if you're a free agent with the Cubs, they're tied down in so much young talent that I think that frees up some money to spend on another arm or whatever else they want really. It's probably going to be pitching going forward if they're looking into this year, maybe David Price, something like that. But just the amount of young talent, young controllable talent they have that frees up so much for obviously a big market team. And the same thing for the Mets. If the Mets are going to have their 4 best pitchers all be working, in a way, rookie contracts, non-free agent contracts, I guess is a better way to put it, then that does free up a little money. I know they've had financial problems, but maybe once Michael Kadire comes off the books or something like that, they can go off and get another big bat that could help them moving forward again. So two promising teams definitely going forward. We would not be surprised if there's an NLCS rematch next year or coming up in the next 5 years.
And again, oh, by the way, there's the Dodgers who are right in this conversation too, if we expand it out. And on the other side, there are the Astros in the American League side, who are kind of the same thing in terms of promising futures. So it's maybe the funnest thing about 2015. We talked all season long about how it's the year of the prospect, but even though we might not see another year quite like 2015, the teams that are succeeding are doing it in a way that feels sustainable because they still have so much talent coming up. You don't see the big spending Red Sox, Yankees teams of the early and mid 2000s just buying up major league talent and then riding that into the postseason, into the World Series. The Blue Jays are maybe closest to that, but the Blue Jays still had tons of contributions from guys who came up through the system. So that's what makes 2016 and beyond really, really exciting as well. And, so if we're going to rank the Mets 1 and 2 in that conversation, might as well talk to the guy who's right now at the very top of that organization in minor league talent rankings. The number 1 prospect in the system is Steven Matz. He's up at the major league level pitching in the World Series. Number 2 is Brandon Nimmo, and we are going to catch up with the Cheyenne, Wyoming native. We're going to talk about his 2015 season, what it's like to be a member of the Mets organization right now at a very exciting time, and the outlook for 2016 going forward for the number 2 prospect in the New York Mets organization. Brandon Nimmo joins the show next. Picked a good week to have a New York Mets prospect on the 31st edition of Minor League Baseball's The Show Before the Show podcast. All credit goes to Sam on the booking front for that, because Brandon Nimmo joins the show here on episode number 31. And Brandon, it's got to be a heck of a fun time right now to be in that system and, be a guy, number 2 ranked prospect in the system. The one guy ahead of you in MLB Pipeline's rankings is in the big leagues right now, and Steven Matz. And it's got to be a lot of fun to be a Mets prospect right now.
Yeah, it is. It's it's an honor to be a part of their system right now, and just a great organization. As you can see, they're in the World Series now, and seeing some success of work that's been put in, in the past, and so really starting to see some of this young talent come up and make an impact, and obviously some of those key signings that Sandy made, around the trade deadline, have really made an impact as well. So I really just think that you're seeing a well-run organization come together at the right time. And obviously it doesn't hurt that Murphy, went as hot as a firecracker at the right time either. So, it's a fun organization to be a part of right now. Obviously doing well, but still, I think, even more room to get better, and is going to continue to get better. And I think that's the greatest part about it.
Well, Brandon, let's talk a little bit first about your career, your climb to where you are right now. This season, majority of the time that you spent was with the AA Binghamton Mets in the Eastern League, 32 games with the AAA Las Vegas 51s in the PCL to finish it off. And that kind of put you back closer to home, and that's one of the topics that we want to discuss. You're a Cheyenne native, and people don't know, unless you're kind of from that area, there's no high school baseball in Wyoming. There's American Legion ball, which is really prevalent, but everybody's so sparsely spread out across the state of Wyoming. It's not like you can just hop in the car and go for a 20-minute bus ride and you're at comparable size schools to play a meaningful high school season. So you didn't even play high school ball, which is kind of crazy in Wyoming. You're the first ever draft pick in the first round out of the state of Wyoming. What is that like now, to kind of be the guy who's carrying the flag or the torch for the state of Wyoming at this point in your career?
It's an honor. It's another honor to have. I just really we tried to not worry about where we came from and our past experiences, and just Dad used to just always tell me, if you're good enough, they'll find you, and that really did come to fruition, and happened to be blessed, to be able to play this game at a high level. And, high school ball here, like you said, just not, it's not really in the books, because you have to travel so far, and the weather really isn't that great here in February and March. In April, you're even still testing it. So, just it'd be a tough season to have. Cold weather, long trips, probably getting snowed out a lot on those long trips. So, we just played American Legion baseball. We tried to go to some warmer weather earlier on in the season, and we had a lot of fun with that. I really got used to the travel, and so that was good. That was really good for preparing me for minor league ball, because lots of travel in minor league ball and lots of bus rides. Luckily I had a great coach and a great father, and an older brother who kind of, they all paved the way for me, and figured out things that worked and things that didn't. And so I got to be the benefit of that. Unfortunately, brother was the guinea pig of it, and same with my coach. Kind of pioneering a way and actually creating a dynasty out here, and making Cheyenne baseball something worth talking about. So I think it's an honor to be a part of that, and hopefully I'm now the guinea pig in the minor league system, and trying to figure out how to get to the big leagues. So hopefully that will come to fruition. That's obviously the biggest dream of mine, and really working as hard as I can for it. But it's a great honor, and I'm just trying to control what I can control, and leave the rest that's out of my control. Just not let it worry me, and just try and not have no regrets about what I do and the work that I put in. And as long as I do that, I'm gonna be able to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and be okay with it. So really, that's my goal, and we'll see how far that takes me.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get to the major league stuff, what it's going to take for that next step in a little bit. But one thing I kind of want to ask about, talking about growing up in Wyoming and, being from a cold weather state like that, just reading up a little bit, what were you like as a high school athlete? I read you did a couple different sports. I think gymnastics may have been involved or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But what kind of athlete were you like? And you said before, if you're good, they'll find you. So how did the Mets discover you? How did scouts discover you while you were on these American Legion barnstorming tours?
First and foremost, didn't do gymnastics, but
okay, all right.
I sure did need it, because I am not the most flexible guy in growing up. Actually, my nickname when I was younger was Tin Man, because I couldn't even hardly touch my toes when I was like 12 years old.
I know that.
So,
I still can't.
Yeah. So I definitely am wound tight. So I definitely needed a lot of some gymnastics in my life would have been all right. But I actually ran indoor track, and I did that, and I did some basketball, but I just wasn't too great of a shooter. Was just a good athlete, so played defense well, and could rebound and all that jazz, but wasn't a great shooter. So I went to indoor track and ended up being a state champion in the 400 meter dash in that, and our team ended up winning the state championship. The men did. And so that was a lot of fun to be a part of. That really helped with my running technique. I am still not a great. It's not very fun to watch me run. I don't look good when I run. I'm not like those sprinters that you watch, but I am wound tight, like I said, and that seems to make me fast, and I take long strides, and so when I get going, I can cover a lot of ground, and so track helped out with that a lot. And kind of how to condition the body, and then football was right up there with baseball. Loved football, played it as much as I could, and then my junior year I ended up blowing my ACL, and so that was the end of my football career. Unfortunately, had a lot of fun with that. That taught me a lot of mental toughness. How to just keep getting knocked down and keep getting back up and bringing it every down, and so I really, really enjoyed football. I think I learned a lot of stuff from that game and from the coaches and the strength training that we did there. So as an athlete, that's all I was. I was just a good athlete. I mean, it was just raw talent, and nothing that I did to earn it. Just very blessed again, and was fast, could jump. I think I could dunk in like, I think ninth grade is when I dunked for the first time.
Wow.
And,
oh man. All right.
So I mean, I was just athletic. You know, I would go into the basketball gym and you know, I would go and two-hand dunk it, and the basketball coach would say, you need to come out for basketball. And I'm like, you know what? I really am not that good at it. I'm just an athlete. You know, that's all it is. And so as long as nobody's out here on the court, yeah, I can go up there and do that stuff. But so it was a lot of raw, undeveloped talent. Now, baseball-wise, I've been doing that since I was 9 years old. Knew baseball very well, was around it all the time, well, competitively since I was 9 years old. And so we would travel, you know, when I was younger. I would go watch Bryce at Nebraska. I would, you know, we'd go to Major League games as much as we could in Coors Field. That wasn't a whole lot, but, you know, it was the closest place for us. So I was just immersed in baseball, really had a love for it. Dad would watch the Rockies every night. And so that one I was a little more skilled in. And then when Dad built the barn in our backyard, I was able to go out there, you know, 2 or 3 nights a week or sometime, you know, just go hit off the tee. And that's really where I think some consistency in my swing came into play. You know, Dad and I, that was our thing, was baseball. And we were able to do that a lot with that barn that he built in the back. And so that one I was just a little more skilled at. The rest of my sports career was just, I was a raw athlete who was just naturally strong, fast, and, you know, could jump. And, so just a raw athlete. So that was me in high school, and, you know, honestly still is, have a lot of raw attributes to me, but trying to become more refined on the baseball skills end of it.
Yeah, and kind of with that in mind, actually, before I ask you this next question, just for the record, I was looking back and I confused the word gymnasium because you guys were practicing so much at Legion with gymnastics, and that's my fault.
Yeah.
That's my fault. Yeah,
Indoor,
that makes a lot more sense.
A lot, yeah. We were always in gymnasium. Yeah, we were always in there practicing baseball, and that was our basketball court was our baseball field. That's how it works.
yeah, no, I can imagine. And well, just kind of looking forward now, you were saying, you know, you're still a kind of a raw talent. Like Tyler said, you know, you finished the year in Las Vegas, but that is one step away from the majors. What do you think it is that you need to do to make that next jump? I mean, we've seen Mets prospects lately, you know, make that jump. Conforto this year, Mats. What do you think you need to do to make that next step?
I think it's just consistency. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I know that I have the talent to play in the big leagues, and I show it off at points, but I think it's just a matter of being more consistent at it, and so that's just a matter of simplifying things and letting the game slow down, and the way you do that is you play more games, and it becomes more natural to you, and you know, reactions take over rather than thinking, and really that's going to be the most important thing for me, is that, you know, my habits and my reactions are the right decisions, and you know, just making sure that I repeat that over and over again until you know, just you make very, very, very few mistakes, and that's what I see in the big leagues. Is just the few mistakes that are made are punished, and so that's where I need to be, and you know, really just trying to play as many games, stay healthy. I mean, that's more than half the battle right there, staying healthy. So just taking care of your body, you know, making sure that you're doing the right stuff in the off season. That's all going to contribute to being more consistent in the season and getting the at bats and the games and experiences that I need to get the right reactions in the game.
Brandon, let me ask you this. Growing up, you kind of alluded to this. You had, you know, coaches and your dad and your brother who really helped you along. And you said that Bryce was somewhat of a guinea pig for you to be able to follow coming out of Wyoming. And he, going into the 2004, had he been drafted in the 2004 MLB draft, was the top prospect in the Rocky Mountain region, according to Baseball America. He goes off to college, plays big D1 ball at Nebraska, made a College World Series his freshman year. You had a D1 commitment to fall back onto Arkansas if you didn't go out of high school to the Mets, but to be able to watch that and learn from what your brother went through. And he doesn't go through the minor league grind the way that you've had to go through. But how did that help you in your minor league career, watching what that was like to play at a high level and go through the travel and go through the, I mean, he's got to deal with academics and that kind of stuff on the side.
Right.
What did that provide for you going into your professional career, being able to watch somebody, especially somebody you're so close with, go through that?
It was instrumental. I mean, I do not think that I would be in the place that I'm at without Bryce. And so I think he has as much credit as anybody for me being, a first round pick out of Wyoming. And I think that he should get as much recognition as me out of that, because like I said, he was the guinea pig for that. And you had to go in and figure out a lot of the intricacies and a lot of just the things that you don't really know that until you go through it about baseball, and really just being your own best coach. You really got to know yourself. You really have to be confident in yourself. I mean, confidence is there's a difference between confidence and being cocky, but having that confidence in yourself is instrumental. And you do not make it in baseball without having confidence in yourself, because there's going to be a lot of times where you look like the worst player in the world, but you should never be there. So someone's going to have to convince yourself, and it's going to have to be you, that you belong, and that it's a bad day or a bad at bat or whatever it may be, but it's all going to be okay, and you're going to come back and be better than ever. So there's a lot of things like that I had to learn, and how physically conditioned you need to be. Him going through the weights program there, and seeing him transform, during college was also made me realize kind of how you have to be. And then luckily I got to see a little bit of Alex Gordon freshman year. He ended up being, I think, number 2 pick that year, and I got to see how he went about his business and kind of what he looked like. And I was like, you know what? He's not like an absolutely ginormous guy, and he's just an athletic guy who got a sweet swing from the left side and is athletic. And so I got to see and kind of realize a little bit what it takes. And so going through that, he would always bring back information. Here's what to do. Here's what not to do. On making yourself better. And so him going through that draft process also, we were able to have some scouts come in. Actually, the Mets were. I remember the Mets coming in, and I remember the Mets scout that saw me actually saw my brother play, and it was Jim Reeves, and he came in and was high on Bryce, and then it was funny that he ended up being high on me, when I was coming through. So got to go through that experience, and it was a lot of fun, but very, very beneficial. Do not think I would be in the position I'm in today without his experiences.
And Brandon, just a couple more for you. Just kind of going back to present day. A lot of people out there, fans, specifically Mets fans, must be wondering this. What is it like to be a Mets prospect watching the World Series right now with your parent club fighting for a ring like that? A couple guys you've used to play with. Is it a nervous experience? Is it an excited experience? What do you like at home watching these games?
Excited. I mean, and nervous because I do have a relationship with most of these guys on the team, going through spring training and workouts with them. So I do have a relationship with them, and so I am rooting for them, and very much so, and do get nervous for them when they come up in big situations, and do want them to win. And so it's a bittersweet feeling, because you see Michael up there, and Matz, and Reynolds, and Pluecki, and I see all my buddies up there, and I'm like, man, I'm close, but it would be, need to get to where they are, and I just think of Conforto and I playing together in June, and now he's playing in the World Series, and just lets me know that I have a lot of work still ahead of me, and not where I want to be yet, but definitely supporting my team, and wishing the best for them, and really getting excited. I mean, when Grandy hit the home run last night, was clapping and yelling for him downstairs, and just really rooting for him. And because how many opportunities do you get to be in a World Series as an organization? It's a very special time, and a lot of things have to go right for that. So you want to take advantage of it while you're there.
Great. So, Brandon, we're just going to kind of end on this note. Before we started recording this, we were joking a little bit about your last name. A lot of people get it confused with Nemo of the Finding Nemo movie. Even your Twitter handle references that movie. It's you_found_Nimmo. So we wanted to kind of send you on this note. Have you seen the movie Finding Nemo?
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Okay,
cool.
All right, great. No, because we're going to ask you a couple questions about it. We're going to test you on your Finding Nemo knowledge.
Oh,
just
boy.
See. Yeah.
It's been a few years, so here we go.
All right, yeah. We did this before with Dansby Swanson, whose Twitter handle is Lieutenant Dans after the Forrest Gump characters.
You get a more modern movie than Dansby. We had to go back
Right.
20 years for his, so you get a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And there's a sequel coming out.
Right, that's actually going to be one of my questions. So
All right.
no spoilers. So we'll start you out easy. Fill in the blank. 42 blank way, Sydney.
Wallaby.
That is correct.
Ding!
1 point.
If we had like sports talk radio sound effects.
Yeah, we don't have the budget for that. But pretend there was.
All right.
Okay, the main shark. You remember the sharks in the movie? The main shark's name was Bruce. From what other sea-based movie did he get his name?
Oh boy. The Mermaid? The Little Mermaid? I don't know.
Not a terrible guess, I guess. It was actually Jaws.
I did not know
shark,
that.
Oh my gosh.
the shark's name in Jaws was Bruce.
Wow.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so you learn something new every day. So there's one.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
I really thought its name was Jaws.
I didn't know that he had a name. To be quite
The
honest.
mechanical one they made was called Bruce.
Interesting.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. I got you.
All right, and as Tyler alluded, this will be our final one, so we'll see if you can crack 2 out of 3, which is a pretty good baseball day. The people at Pixar have announced that there's a Finding Nemo sequel. Which character is the sequel going to be based on?
Dory?
That is correct.
Ding!
All right.
And Nimmo 2 for 3 today and
2
an
for
off-season
3.
day.
That's
so
a 667 average in the offseason. That's
There you
impressive
go.
work.
There you go. I'll take that all day.
Brandon Nimmo, the New York Mets' number 2 ranked prospect, and it is confirmed it's Nimmo, in case you all were wondering. You can go follow Brandon on Twitter, as Sam noted, at you_found_Nimmo, Nimmo. And Brandon, we cannot thank you enough for taking all the time out of, I guess we probably distracted you from the nerves waiting around for Game 2 of the World Series, but thank you a ton for being able to do this with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it definitely got us closer to the World Series. So hopefully the Mets can take Game 2 tonight. Let's go Mets.
Benjamin Hill joins us in studio and has to follow one hell of an interview with Brandon Nimmo of the New York Mets. We set the bar very high for you today, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I like when the bar's set high because
Good.
then I just raise it even higher.
Pushes you to be
Upward
better.
and onward until infinity.
So welcome in. It's we've talked so much team rebranding, but we had an interesting story this week in a league rebranding, which is not something that you hear about a whole lot, but the Southern League has a fresh new look. Tell us all about that.
Well, there's not too much to say with that, but how often when you do think of rebranding season, which obviously is really in full swing, October, November, December, how often do you think of a league rebranding itself, and how often do you even think that leagues have logos? I mean, if you stop and think about it, you're like, oh yeah, of course the league has a logo, but you don't really think about it. So it's kind of cool for the Southern League to get involved with that. It says it's their first one in over 2 decades. And it's not a radical rebrand, because especially when you're dealing with a league, it's an inherently conservative institution. You're not going to, do the league equivalent of changing your name from the Arrows to the Rubber Ducks or something like that. So it's not some radical rebrand, but I think it looks pretty sharp with the SL in the middle superimposed upon a baseball diamond and a circle around that. Southern League established 1885. And that is one long history for the Southern League, and I guess we could dedicate a whole show to that at some point on the Southern League, which kind of used to be Well, yeah, we don't even get into it. It's a long and complicated
Save
history.
That for January.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The cold months of January and February.
It's a long and complicated history. But it was done not by Brandiose, not by Studio Simon, but by a guy who's been doing sports branding, not so much in the minor league sphere. And we talked about this before we went on air. We don't know how to pronounce his last name, and I'm particularly embarrassed by this, kind of covering the logo beat. But Todd Radom.
Yeah. We apologize, Todd.
This is a theme of episode number 31. We're just not sure how to pronounce anybody's last name today.
Yeah, exactly. Radom. He's
great. He's a great Twitter follow, and his website's awesome, so go do that, but we don't know how to say his name.
Yeah, and he's done the Brooklyn Cyclones logo, and I think he's done some work for minor league baseball proper, like winter meetings and that kind of stuff at times. So we'll figure out how to pronounce his last name. Maybe make a list of all the ways you could pronounce his last name, and then we'll rate him.
Yeah, there it is.
That was outstanding. That's one of the best. That's in a tight moment there. I mean, you just pulled that one very quickly, Ben.
That's why I'm a professional.
I'm always in awe.
So kind of going back to, that's new stuff this week, kind of going back to last week, we talked about title droughts in terms of the Cubs. Cubs are now out of the playoffs, but you got some emails about teams that don't have necessarily title droughts, but just playoff droughts in particular. What did you find out about that?
Yeah, well, last week I wrote a story on the longest title droughts throughout all of the minor league baseball leagues. And as we talked about last week, the Syracuse Chiefs have the longest title drought in minor league baseball. But I got a great email just yesterday, in fact, from a man named Christopher Moyer. And he says, okay, but I did some research and found the longest playoff droughts in minor league baseball. The longest playoff drought in Major League Baseball is the Seattle Mariners 2001, which really isn't that long. I actually thought there would be a team out there a little longer than that. But the longest playoff drought in minor league baseball, Tyler, did you look at my tweets on this? Do you know the answer to this?
I do, and I was a little proud because my guess at the longest title drought was the same as this team, so I missed out on one, and I was inadvertently correct on the other.
Right, so this is your home state, the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. So the longest playoff drought, not just in minor league baseball, but in all major and minor league baseball, 1997 is the last time that they were in the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. And that's the longest drought by quite a number of years. We have the Appy League Bristol, who are now a Pirates affiliate. They haven't been in since 2002. And then three teams that haven't been in since 2005, Buffalo Bisons, Charleston River Dogs, and the Delmarva Shorebirds. So, especially in the minor leagues with split seasons, with wild cards, with a small number of teams and divisions, with so much roster turnover every year, meaning that every year could be the year, you don't see too long of droughts. But we've got at least 5 teams here who are going to be entering their 12th season or more in 2016 without having appeared in the playoffs.
And the Sky Sox were close one time, too, right? It was just a statistical anomaly that they didn't get in.
Yeah, this was in the email that I was sent, and I love these kind of, very nerdy facts. But in 2009, the Sky Sox, in the divisional race, they edged the Tacoma for the division title. They had a winning percentage of .5441, and Tacoma had one of .5439. But it was declared a statistical tie, and then the tiebreaker head-to-head record went to Tacoma. So the Colorado Springs Sky Sox just can't get a break.
Security Service Field, that would have been a very, very long time ago. They did a mass renovation of that ballpark, and back before then it was in 97 when they made the playoffs. It would have been like watching a game, 40 years ago because it's a very different look and feel down there nowadays. But that is a long, long playoff drought, especially in AAA where, there's wild card bursts, there's teams like the structure in AAA kind of makes it difficult to not be in the playoffs for 2 decades. You would think at some point things would roll around, you'd luck your way in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you feel that way about a lot of things in life, even when things aren't going well. You luck your way in every once in a while.
Some point.
Yeah, but Sky Sox just can't get a break. 1997, 18 years. That's the year I graduated high school, so do the math on that.
That was Todd Helton's rookie year for nerdy front range baseball fans such as myself. But no help to the Sky Sox at that point. Maybe it was because Todd Helton left. Maybe it was the curse of Todd Helton.
There you go.
Everything
needs a narrative. We
nailed it.
Talked last week about the Visalia rawhide and the curse of the alligator dating back to 1978 and Joe Charbonneau's dead pet alligator. So we do need to apply the Sky Sox with an applicable curse. And yeah, we'll go with Todd Helton for now, but let's do a little research and maybe try to come up with something even more strange and ridiculous and no doubt true.
Preferably something with 4 legs.
Yeah, exactly. See if he owned any reptiles while in the Springs.
Exactly.
Like thing. Ben's got some more stuff up on the site as of right now as well, continuing to churn out stuff from that last road trip through the Northeast with New Britain and Lowell and Pawtucket and what all is going on and what is coming up.
Yeah, I had 3 new Lowell Spinners posts come out on Ben's Biz blog just yesterday, detailing my August 31st appearance at the Lowell Spinners game. Today I have a couple McCoy Stadium Pawtucket Red Sox posts coming up, and I am going to get them done by the end of next week. And finally, everyone who listens to this podcast can stop hearing me promoting my in-season blog posts. And I'm looking forward to being done. Just a psychological break. And once it is all done, then I can actually maybe be nice to myself and be like, wow, man, you went to a lot of places. You wrote a lot of great stuff. But right now it's that daily feeling of like, oh, man, when is this going to end? But it will end. Everything ends.
Nobody's harder on himself than Benjamin Hill, but nobody does better work than Benjamin Hill either. So just know that when you're knocking yourself around, we love you, Ben.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I need that.
What a guy. Go follow him on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz. The blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And go follow Todd Radum and then tweet at him and ask how you pronounce his last name, which I guess we could have done to try to figure it out before this interview, but it's way more entertaining for us to just debate this poor gent's last name among the 3 of us.
Yeah, we're going to make it a 6-part series, so stay tuned next week.
We'll lead into it with the serial podcast music. Yeah. On how do you find the pronunciation of Todd's last name. Ben, thanks, man. We'll do it again next week or the week after or sometime. You got a birthday and a vacation coming up. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, I'll be here next week.
Okay.
And then after that, I'm taking a break. But one more time, I'll be here and I'll talk to you.
We'll do it then.
Sounds good.
Fall Classic time. It feels like fall. It feels like fall here. It feels like fall there. It's fall.
Yeah, it's a gray day out today. I was back home over the weekend, and back in New England, all the leaves had changed. I had to actually help my family rake. I forgot how much of the traumatizing experience. Yeah, you don't have to do that in the city. That's a beautiful thing about a city. So it's officially fall. But that means World Series time.
Yeah,
so
that's fun.
Take that.
And it means Arizona Fall League time, which we'll talk about here again in a minute. But, okay, Game 1 wrapped up last night. By the time you are listening to this, Game 2 will have been wrapped up. But Sam and I are going to give you our takes on the World Series as of where it stands right now. Kansas City Royals up 1-0 on the back of a 14-inning victory in Game 1. And Eric Hosmer bat-flipping a sacrifice fly, which I've never seen before. Sam, your thoughts on where this series is headed after one night in?
Yeah, I still like the Mets. I know there's a lot of data going back about how many times teams have won Game 1 and gone on to win the series. But I just look at the way their rotation is built the rest of the way. I really, really trust it. And the way the Royals could be a little screwed up based on how the way yesterday went with Chris Young. I'll be interested to see how they use him going forward. He was supposed to be their Game 4 starter. Pitched very, very well in difficult circumstances last night in Game 1. But yeah, I think pitching exceeds good hitting at this point of the year. And the Mets have the bats. Obviously, Murphy's done it exceedingly well, and they have Curtis Granderson homered, all those types of guys. So I think they have that right mix. Even if they drop Game 1, I'd still like them to pick up 4 of the next 6 if it were to go to 7. Talking to friends, talking to people around this office, I had Mets in 6. I'll stick with that. I think their arms are just going to ride out, what has essentially been a little bit of Royals magic going forward. They did the same thing last year. They just, hits at the exact right moments. And I think that kind of wears out at a certain point. I know that's not exactly scientific, but I think the Mets have the right pieces to make it a good series and bring a trophy back to Queens. What about for you, Tyler?
The tough thing is, we're all about embracing debate around here. But I agree with 100% of what you just said.
All right, good.
And we'll wrap
That's
up episode number 31. No, I agree completely. I think when you look at the Mets, You get a very decent outing out of Matt Harvey yesterday. Obviously, things started off very strangely in the first inning, but Alcides Escobar notwithstanding, Harvey gives you a good outing. You end up losing that game, and then you turn to Jacob deGrom in Game 2. So you basically go to your de facto staff ace over another guy who could be argued as your staff ace who went in Game 1. You get to go in Game 2. Johnny Cueto did not look good in Toronto, obviously. The crazy thing about the Mets is that they just keep coming with that pitching, and that's what seems to me like it's going to carry them, because there's such a – you go home, you get Noah Syndergaard. Like, there's no fall off. You've got number one after number one after number one. That's where I think eventually – and it's – you put it very well. It's not scientific, but it just seems like at some point – the numbers are going to catch up with the Royals. I mean, there's going to be a swing back to the mean for how the Royals have played. They've caught so many breaks over the last couple of seasons, and you don't want to mitigate what they've done, because the Royals have come through in huge spots, and that's not an easy thing to do. They've played phenomenal baseball. But at some point, the things that have gone right for the Royals seem like the law of averages will dictate they're not going to go that way. So I think, especially if the Mets get Game 2 tonight, and again, by the time you're hearing this conversation could sound completely different, but if they get Game 2 tonight, I still think they take it in 6 games. Because you go home, you get Syndergaard in Game 3, that momentum of getting those 3 games at home and having the ability to go back to Kansas City leading 3-2, I think you can't stop the Mets with those arms. And again, like you said, having Chris Young, who's your Game 4 starter, come out of the bullpen for Game 1, does he go on short rest? Do you bring, I don't know, here's a wild card. Maybe Raul Mondesi makes his debut starting pitching in Game 4. Something we haven't considered.
Right, yeah. I mean, Ned Yost could do whatever he wants.
The new inefficiency, Sam.
So, right, yeah.
Throw your top infield prospects out there in Game 4 of the World Series as starting pitchers. We're going to make us all look silly.
I would not know what to do.
So you and I are in agreement. I still think it's the Mets, but every Royals fan that I know, which is a pretty sizable amount having gone to college in the Midwest, they will all come to my house with pitchforks and flaming torches and stuff, because Royals fans do not like that people do not believe in their team. We have learned that. And either way, if Game 1 is any indication, this is going to be one heck of a fun series.
Yeah, I'm buckled in for sure. I was buckled in before last night, and then just the amount of good baseball that was played, timely hitting, good pitching in good spots. This is everything we could have hoped for.
As I saw somebody tweet last night, you would have thought in the first inning that Alcides Escobar's leadoff inside the park home run would have been the craziest thing to happen last night, and I'm not sure it cracked the top 10. All things considered, going into the second game of the 2015 World Series. So it's going to be a ton of fun going forward. By this time next week, we'll have a much better read on who your 2015 World Champion will be. Might have it decided. I doubt it, but we might have it decided by the time we record episode number 32. So, again, our biggest thanks to Brandon Nimmo, who you can follow on Twitter. He's at _found_Nimmo, Nimmo. Big thanks to Brandon Nimmo. Big thanks, as always, to Benjamin Hill. Sam, you can follow on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. Ben Hill is at Ben's Biz. Minor League Baseball is at MILB. And I am at Tyler Mon. And until next week, when, we'll see what the world looks like through the eyes of a possible future world champion. We'll do it all again at that point, and we'll talk to you then. Enjoy the remainder of the World Series until we talk to you.